Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about cable, all about wiring, why I chose the IGUS Flex Cable, and so yeah, let's get into it. So I'm going to kind of throw another option out there for wiring up pretty much any printer, but in particular a Voron. Now, I know most people use like silicon, PTFE, FEP, the FCC, basically those this type of ribbon cable. So everybody's going about something different. Now, the reason why I chose the IGUS Continuous Flex Cable is because when I first built my V1.8, I used silicon cables, and they're not bad. If you don't use cheap cable chains, they work perfectly fine. But in the case, I'm using these cheap Chinese cable chain, and they are sharp. I'm not gonna lie, they have some bit of a sharp edge to them. So basically, while I was printing, it was cutting into the cables and damaging them, and my fan would go out, my hot end fan would go out in the middle of a print, or my power cooling fan wouldn't turn on. There was just weird issues that I was having, and I was kind of tired of breaking down the computers to replace the cable, and I was getting frustrated. So when I did the replacement, I went ahead and researched the best cable to use. Now, a lot of people offered PTFE, but they're pricey. Like, I mean, I can't remember how much millimeters or how much feet you get for a certain price, but when I looked, it was pretty expensive. So I know some people say they don't have time to do wire management, but honestly, if you have time to build a printer, you technically don't have time to do your own wire management, but I digress. I mean, not wire management, but you have time to crimp your own cables, but again, I digress. I wanted something that was flexible, that was somewhat not super cheap, but cheap enough for me to get done myself, just because I want to experience the full Voron effect. Because I self-source all my printers. I do not do kits, because you're just missing a part of the whole experience there, in my opinion. But I also just wanted a cable that was able to have all the cable housed in one thick sleeving. And I just think it was a smart idea to do it that way. And so after researching, I got into IGUS Cable, and they have basically cables for everything. They were pretty decently priced. They have cables for all kind of application, for data, for bus, for servos, for motors, just control cable, robotic cable. They have all kind of cables. So what I was really looking for is something that is flexible in a cable chain, but and can withstand some heat, and can deliver the power and the amps needed to power the the hot end and stuff like that. And so I ran into the IGUS. So there it is. I just want to show you how it's mounted. So mounted just like your regular cable, except in this case I have the locking end of the end stop switch on here, so that way it flexes good. So as you can see, it flexes pretty good. Let me move this to the side. As you can see, it flexes really well. Even with the locking end in place, it does flex really nicely. There's no resistance other than like motor resistance, belt resistance, other than that. But it doesn't create any resistance. Look, I am not fighting this to move it. So, you know, but I love the fact that it can bend, you know, and as you can see it on here, let me see if I can actually show you. So as you can see, other than these little rub marks from the actual, some of the sharp edges of this cable chain, this cheap Chinese cable chain, other than that, it's not, there's no damage on here. There's like no damage at all on the cable, you know what I'm saying? And I got it bended. Look, I have it bending and no damage at all. Now this extra cable you guys are seeing here, because you can't run any other cable in this cable chain. This is a 10 by 11 and this thing take up the whole cable chain by itself. Now you probably could run some wires, you know, in the sides here, you know, like squeeze it, but that's just too much. So I ran some separate wires for my end stop switch. As you can see, the X and then the Y over here. So, and I just decided to just kind of zip tie it around the cable chain so that way it folds nicely with it. So, and that works. So, but it's wonderful. It works great. You route it like any other cable. So as you can see, I have it cut at the end there so I can, you know, do my, I'm using, what do you call those connectors now? JST connectors. You can use microfit, but I'll give you my reason in a little bit why I use JST preferably. So as you can see it here as well, it's been running on my 1.8 for a long time now. No issues again. It's been fantastic. I have the locking end on the motor so it folds nicely and not bow up too much. And the reason why I have the locking end, because I'm trying to avoid this thing. So as you can see, it's also here in my 2.4 and it bows up, right? Because remember, it's a little rigid, not so rigid because it does flex as you can see, but it's a little rigid. So when you don't have the locking end here, it just bows up. But if I did have the locking end in place, it will just stay like that, right? When it moves. So, so like I said, it's really nice. Really nice cable. I don't have to worry about it wearing out anytime soon or anything like that. It's been running for months, like about 5 months now. Ever since I built my 1.8 and I had the issue, I replaced it in the background, and it's been running good. Been printing out PIF parts, no issues. Ever since I built this as well, I built it with this in mind. I built my Trident with it in mind, and it's printing and working no issue. I also put it on my switch wire, which has the ERFC Enraged Rabbit Carrot feeder on it, which I will be talking about this and all this in another video. So watch out for that. You know, I have a lot of information to give, more details, more in-depth stuff of my experience with this thing so far. But as you can see, it's right here as well. I have it routed. And I have the locking in place so that way it folds up nicely when it moves, as you can see, and so it's not bowing up in place. As you can see, it's also there as well. So, but as you can see, it's installed easy. You know, you route it like any other cable. The only difference is I couldn't put it in the I couldn't put the cable chain on my V2.4 only because the way the 2.4 is mounted, and as you can see, it's limited on how you can flex that cable in. I'm pretty sure someone else can do a better job than I did, but the problem is it takes up it takes up a lot of space in the cable chain. So as you can see, with my motor cable and plus that cable, I would have to design, you'd have to have a thicker and wider cable chain in order for this to work. Unfortunately, the way the Voron designed the outer cable chain is a bit limiting, so I had to do it like this in order to have it working. So that's where the limitation is. But if you don't have to, you know, if you're not setting it up on a 2.4 per se, or if you're good at STL where you can modify this to accommodate a thicker cable chain to accommodate house all that wiring, then you're good. But if you're not that savvy, if you're running it on a V1.8 or even a Trident, it's totally fine on the setup. As you can see, it fits perfectly fine. However, I don't want to ramble on. I just wanted to show you guys that I have it running on all my machines, and I love it. So I'm gonna show you how I get it prepared and set up and everything for the machine. All right, guys. So I'm at my little build area here in my man cave, and so I'm just gonna go through a few things here and explain how I get it all set up and how I get it all running. So Here's a little sample piece I have here. I already cut off the PVC housing. So this is the flex cable. I don't remember the model number. I might put it up on the screen, and I'll also put a link to this. But this is the IGUS Continuous Flex Cable. It is. Should I put it? This model. Sorry, I'm stuttering over my words here. But this model is specifically for flexible application. You do want to be flexible in the case of how the Voron setting up, or if you're running in a cable chain. You definitely want it to be flexible. Now, like I said, they have many different type of cables, but this one works perfectly for the printer application. You can get them in different configuration. In this case, this is a 18 conductor setup. So 18 conductors, which is 18 wire, and then they're at 20 gauge. Okay, so 18 wires at 20 gauge. You can even have 24 conductors at 20 gauge. But what you got to be careful with is the thickness of the jacket. Because if the jacket is too thick, then it won't fit in the cable chain. However, someone on the Facebook post, because I made a Facebook post about this, did mention that you can actually not use this in a cable chain, and actually there's a mod for the 2.4, which I might actually go to, that allows you to use this in a umbilical configuration, which is what I'm probably going to do with my 2.4 once I update to the new stealth burner. I'm probably going to run this in an umbilical configuration on my 2.4, but you can definitely run this in an umbilical configuration, or you can, like I said, run this specific count and size in the cable chain. But the reason for this is because I wanted the cable to last long. I didn't want it to be expensive, and I just like the cleanness of it. You know what I'm saying? Because the only part you got to cut is the cut the amount that you need for the hot end, and of course you're gonna cut a lot more than this off, so that way you can have enough room to wire it up underneath your on your board and stuff that it's going to. But I just love it's just one cable that has everything for the hot end, and you can expand on it. For example, let's say you want to run NeoPixel like the new stealth burner offers. You have enough cable. There's 18 conductors on here, so there's been plenty enough cable to run NeoPixel LED and all the fancy stuff that you need. So, and again, I doubt that this is going to go out anytime soon. It's a very thick piece PVC jacket on here. It says it can withstand, right here it says it can withstand up to 80 degrees C. Now on the website it says 70 degrees, but on here it says 80 degrees at 300 volt. Okay, so this is a very, very, very good cable to use, and especially that my machines on the 1.8 and on the Trident, they get up to about 62 degrees per long printing, and it's nowhere near threshold for this cable to have an issue. So like I said, this is a really, really good cable and a good alternative from PTFE and ribbon cable setup. Okay, so now I'm gonna stop ranting. I just want to give you a couple of tips here. So to get this off, all you do is, if you have a nice little sharp box cutter, just kind of go into it a little bit, not too much though, because you don't want to cut the wires, right? You don't want to cut the wires, but you just go into the sleeving a little bit till you see the wires. Then you kind of flex it out like this, and then you just kind of cut in between until you can, get a nice clean cut, and then pull this off. Now, if you're cutting like a very long piece, let's say you want to expose quite a bit of the cable, and you cut a long piece, it gets very hard to pull it off by hand. Okay, so what I do is, not sure if you guys can see this. Let me see if I can point you to that. But if you can see, I have a little vice grip right here, and I will put that part that I cut underneath the bottom of that vice grip, tighten it up a bit so it holds this in place and give me leverage, and then I pull. and that will kind of take off the rest of the PVC jacket for me. You know, like I said, there's other methods, but I find that was effective to do, and that works for me. So you might be wondering, how do you wire this up? How do you figure out what wire, what end connects to what end if the wires are all the same color? Now, of course, you know this end, this colored wire, which is what they call ground, but I'm not going to use for ground. You can use for anything. Matches up with this, right? So we know this matches up with this because clearly it's color coded. However, we don't know what the rest of these black wires match up with. Now, you know, logically, if you look at the wire beside here on the right hand side of the color, we can kind of look here and realize, oh wow, it's actually on the right hand side. So if you want to go and start wiring out of the outer wires, so you can start from the outer wires and kind of figure out where they are. Now, I'm not saying to do it this method because it's definitely not trustworthy, because you don't know if it's twisted. Because look, it's twisted coming in, right? So it could be twisted all the way within the sleeving, and you might wire the wrong wire. So in order to make sure the wire from this end to that end, depending on which side you're gonna be connecting with, I bought this voltage detector, right? So voltage detector basically just help complete the circuit, so you can, you know, that way you can indicate what is the live wire and what is not a live wire. Okay, and I have a spare. As you can see, I have a spare 24-volt power supply that I have. It's an old Chauncey power supply that I have. So this is what I use to detect the correct cable. So in a sense, all I do is I connect one end to the negative. You can flip flop. It depends on which color you want. This has two lights. It can do green for negative and red for positive. So you can connect it whichever way. I like the green light on. You know, because it kind of, you know, psychologically points me that that's the correct thing, but it doesn't really matter. But so let's say I take one of these, right? I would just take one of these, and then I take my wire crimper, my wire stripper, automatic wire stripper, and I'll strip it like so you guys can see. Okay, so it's now stripped. And then I'll go ahead. Let me switch this over real quick. Then I have this little makeshift kind of holder for me for the wire. So I'll go ahead and kind of put the wire in there. Like I said, you can use any other method to do this, but for me, it was something I made up on the fly to make life easier for me. So, so I just push it in there. Literally, I just push it in there, and then use the nut to tighten up to keep the wire in place. Right? So now that the wire is in place, all I got to do now is take the outer end here, and then use this voltage detector and see which one lights up, and that will tell me that's the correct wire, right? So I'll go ahead and touch. Okay, that's not the correct wire, even though I thought it was. See, remember I told you earlier, the one on the left, I thought, see, it's not detecting. So I got to keep going until it lights up. So you can go through this, but I'll go and touch each of these wire to see which one is correct. And the one that lights up, I know that's the correct one. Oh, well, silly me, I didn't have the power supply on. So, of course, I couldn't detect anything. So, let's do this again, now that the power supply is on. There we go. So, this wire is the correct wire, see? Right? So, even though it was beside the green one, look how far this was. It's all twisted over here. Right? And it's on the actual opposite side. So there we go. So that's what I would do to detect which cable is live. And then from there, I will strip both of them, get my JST connectors. I will go ahead and crimp. Put on this. And of course, you got to put this on first. I'll take a little bit of heat shrink, put it on, make sure it's color coded, depending on what I'm crimping for. So basically, how I do mine is I use four pins JST. So basically, I would just use, like, for example, 4 wires will be for my motors, for my stepper motor. 4 wire will be for my hot end and my thermal sensor. Another 4 wire will be for my part cooling fan and my hot end fan. And then there's like 2 wires depending if the type of Voron on your ability. For example, if you're doing a switch wire, you will need 2 wire for the X end stop switch. In this case, 2 wires for my quickie probe or probe sensor. In that case, you need 3 wires, but if you're using a quickie probe, you only need 2 wires, right? So if you're doing the quickie probe option, you have 2 extra wires. That means you have 4 conductors left to use anything else. If you're gonna be upgrading to the stealth burner, the new afterburner, the new upgrade for the Voron Toolhead, then you can use 3 of these, and that could be for your NeoPixel, right? And then you still have a spare conductor left. If you needed to add something else in the future, you can always use the ground off of one of these. You can bridge one of these and put an extra wire on it, and you have a ground, right? So it's just really nice and flexible that you can do this. And the reason why I use 4-pin JST is because I don't have to have so much pins, so much connectors running to my hot end. Basically, I'm trying to limit as much. So if I have 4, basically when I run my hot end, I have like no more than 5 connectors in total, or 4 in total. Okay, so it just makes it easier and cleaner to push it in the cover. But with the new Voron stealth burner and the Clockwork 2.0, there's a massive cover. So it's not going to be hard now to hide a lot of the wire. So yeah. So I just wanted to show you guys how easy it is to set up, easy to find the cables. Just use some heat shrink to color code the wires so that way you know what goes to what. And that's really it. Very, very simple, easy setup. I know some people don't like crimping their own wires, but in this case, this is just made easy. This is just easy to do. You're not have to be tussling with a bunch of loose wires all over the place. It's in a jacket already. You're just stripping the ends, the amount on the ends you need, wiring it up, and you're good to go. So yeah, I just want to throw this out there as an option. It makes cable routing easier, much tidier. You don't have all these loose cable with different colors, or you don't have, you know what I'm saying, you just have a nice black cable running through your what's-it-name, and that's it. Just really nice and clean. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys, that there's an option with these IGUS cable chain. I think it's worth the money. I've been running mine in my printers for about 5 months now, so between 4 to 5 months now, and no problems. I have no issues with it. Like I said, other than the cable chain, the cheap cable chain, drag chain that I have, it's kind of like scratching up the outer sleeving. But outside of that, there's no issues. So I definitely recommend this to you guys to give this a shot. If you don't want to deal with the silicone wires, or if you don't want to buy pricey, expensive PT cables, or if you don't want to pay $150 to $200 for already done cables for you, because honestly, that's a lot of money to buy pre-wired cables. Pre-wired cables. That's a lot of money. This is much cheaper. Like, this cost me 10 feet of this thing cost me no more than $31 shipping. 10 feet. $31 shipping, and then I print everything myself. That's cheaper than paying $200 for already pre-crimped and pre-wired harness for Voron. So again, I understand some people are on a time constraint and they don't want to take that's a lot of time to do this. But personally, for the full Voron experience, it's best to do everything yourself. I just feel like you're cheating yourself out a bit, not trying to get the work done in. You know, but I just love the idea of again saving money while still getting a really good outcome and giving different alternative from what's being recommended. So, but yeah, guys, I just want to share that with you guys. Again, there's more videos to come. I hope this was useful, and I can point you guys to other things that I discovered. So stay tuned. There's more video coming. I know I don't post a lot, not very often, but I really need to step that up. Keep in mind, I'm also going to be live streaming over the last 2 weeks in December. I will be converting the last Chauncey Pro that I have into a mashup of a 1.8 and a Trident. It will be using the 1.8 bed frame setup, but the Trident kinematics, basically it's a V2 kinematics. So watch out for that, stay tuned for that. I won't be doing blind joints. I'm just going to leave the frame the way it is, and hopefully that can get people to convert some of their Chauncey into a Voron setup without paying a lot of money. So stay tuned for that. We'll definitely be live streaming that, so stay tuned, and there's more to come. So please like, subscribe, guys, share, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.